Welcome to MILF.
I'm Courtney.
And I'm Jennifer.
And we are two moms into literary freedom. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi,
Did
Courtney.
I just call you Jennifer?
I didn't hear it. You're good.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Courtney. How's it going?
Better now that we got the stinky dog away.
I just walked into chaos.
A mole massacre.
Yeah, tell them what happened.
So a mole was massacred on my property today by my cat. And then my dog decided to roll in it just as Jennifer was walking through the door so that we could record. And so I didn't even know that she was here, but I was like screaming obscenities in the bathroom, I think, or was I trying to get her off the bed?
So your husband opened the door for me and all I hear is, "Oh my God, it smells so bad."
Just imagine what a dead mole smells like.
Yeah, I'd rather not. I'm good.
Well, I'm glad you didn't. Maybe you smelled a little bit walking up.
A little bit, yeah.
Because the massacre took place on the walkway. And I just found the sad little head, and like
Aww.
both of its little paws were like this. And so my cat had like decapitated it. And, my daughter found it, and I just kind of threw it in the bushes. I didn't want to give it a funeral or anything. But I thought that was it. And then about a minute later, we see her dog rolling around out front. Anyway. And of course, the first place she goes is my husband's side of the bed.
Of course, just to really dig her hole a little deeper. I will say your house did not smell, so that's a good thing. It's just outside. So.
I did light a pumpkin candle.
It's working.
And then I also told my daughter I'd give her $15 if she is that a lot?
I think it's fair considering the mess that your dog is in right now. Yeah.
Blake was like, "You should have started at 10." I was like, well, I told her she had to use 2 different kinds of shampoo.
Yeah.
And she had to rinse her 3 different times because it was bad. It was like take her to the groomer level bad. So we'll see how well she did after this.
Oh, poor thing.
This happens a lot. Anyway, we've got a lot to talk about today. We've got A Map for Palestine is the next junior book that we're going to cover. We're not doing it in today's episode, but we're going to do a separate episode. It's a Palestinian child's search for home, written by Mesa O'Day and illustrated by Aliyah Betawi. It is, just bump the mic there, sorry. We're still getting used to our new setup here. Bear with us. But it's a new book.
Okay.
I know a lot of times we cover books that aren't technically banned.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if this was banned like later on. But here in the free state of Florida, it's definitely not something that I think schools would be like jumping to put in their libraries.
Right.
Even though it's technically legal now, right? To do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the time being, it still is legal. And I feel like, yes, they would try to squeeze a book in like this, maybe. But I don't know. I don't know now. The fear is real,
Yeah, and I think we haven't really done our research on this yet. So when we cover the book, we'll have more research about like maybe it's been challenged places. But don't you remember that story it was like a year or 2 ago where I think it was a Palestinian author and she was doing a book tour?
Yes.
And she got canceled in like a few places.
I do remember that. Moms for Liberty was behind that one, right?
Probably, I don't know.
And they were like advocating for her not to be allowed to be, and this was not at a school, right? Or was it at a school?
I think it was at a school. It was like an author. She was supposed to come. I think,
it was. Yeah,
a
presentation at school, and they had a big fit about it.
Like ridiculous. We in Flagler had an author. I'm not going to say their name because I don't want to be mean, but a very popular book, children's book. And the kids came home. I was like, "Oh, how was Meet the author of blah, blah, blah book?" They're like, "She was so mean."
Oh my God, really?
And it wasn't about anything like, and I'm not even going to say that this is political. This is cultural.
Right.
This is like, about the lives of different people who live around the world. It's not political. It's cultural, right? This book was about dessert food. Okay. So and again, I don't want to say it because I don't want to ruin the book for other people, but also talk shit about an author. But maybe we want to have her on the podcast one day.
Right.
But the kids thought she was really mean.
But that's crazy because she's writing children's books.
Right.
You would expect her to have
I think she was just like over it. I don't know.
Maybe.
So my point is,
don't do these tours.
Right.
Just sell your books.
Don't cancel the authors that actually want to do this for the right reasons,
right?
As opposed to the authors that are doing it for probably other reasons if they were that mean.
Right.
So, anyway, I digress. So yeah, we're going to cover this in the next junior episode. This is something that I think we should do more often, is at the top of the episode, tell people what we're doing, then do what we usually do, which is talk about all the crazy world events.
Rant for a little bit.
Yeah. We love our rants. But we're covering Blackbirds in the Sky by Brandy Colbert. I'm going to go with Colbert. An award-winning author of the book The Voting Booth. And this particular book was a CPL summer reading pick for 2022. And the reason we're covering this is because our Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon,
also known for her wrestling husband in Empire.
I don't know why the camera's not picking you up. I'm gonna talk quieter.
That's all right.
You talk louder.
It's okay. Your face is better for camera anyway.
No. Oh my gosh, stop it. You are beautiful. The camera loves you. Okay. What were we saying?
We were talking about
why we're doing this.
Yes.
So yeah, Linda McMahon, known for her wrestling really more than anything, was interviewed back in the summer, right? And that's why we covered Ruby Bridges, is because she admitted to not, essentially she was like, I'll have to get back to you on that. She didn't have answers. She couldn't say she knew who Ruby Bridges was. She couldn't say she knew what the Tulsa Race Massacre was. And for those of you listening, they're like, I don't know what the Tulsa Race Massacre is. That's okay. If you're the Secretary of Education, you need to know these things, because they're not like, rare, or they're not like unknown things.
Right.
They happened, and they were very, meaningful things that happened. And, if you are in education, you know about them.
Right. You would expect someone to know who's running the whole education of the entire United States.
300 million people. Yeah. You'd think. But she in the video, she's like, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that, because the legislator who was interviewing her was asking, like, is this considered woke? Is this the woke? Is the Tulsa, not this book particular, but is the Tulsa Race Massacre something that the president would say doesn't, quote, align with his ideologies in terms of like being too woke for the classroom? And she didn't have an answer for that. So we thought we would cover the Tulsa Race Massacre using this particular book, even though there are several books on the subject.
Right. And also, it's also relevant now too, because we have the president wanting to whitewash history even more by, just discounting the Black experience and what was done to them, trying to say, like, their lives weren't that bad. Let's focus on the good and that sort of stuff, and removing things from museums and just all sorts of crazy.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't at the Smithsonian that was like, he asked the Smithsonian he told the Smithsonian, like, you have to remove.
Going off a headline, right? White House orders review of Smithsonian museums and exhibits to ensure alignment with Trump directive. Now, what the directive is aims to ensure alignment with the president's directive to celebrate American exceptionalism, remove divisive or partisan narratives, and restore confidence in our shared cultural institutions. Basically, whitewash it.
Right. So they say, and now that you have read that, I remember what I read about it, which is like, to them, divisive is anything that paints white people in a bad light.
Right.
So these exhibits, they paint white Americans at that time period in a bad light.
Accurately.
It's accurate. Yeah. And as a white American, I don't feel guilty because I didn't do it. I wasn't a part of it.
Right.
I would feel guilty for not bringing my children to that exhibit.
Right.
I would feel guilty for saying, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Or we don't need to learn about this. We need to just ignore that happened.
Yeah, that's when you should. I mean, I wouldn't feel guilty, but I should feel guilty.
You should, right? That's when you should.
I would have no shame.
We know that these people don't have shame, so they don't feel guilt or they don't care, but they should.
Exactly. So yeah, that's another reason why this is so important. And everything is connected in terms of books and why they're so important, and the fact that we are censoring these books with PragerU.
Oh my God, that's another issue.
Yeah, and all that is just telling about what, they really want to achieve, and it relates to what's happening in Palestine and everything in the world. So, but yeah, let's talk a little bit about what is happening around the world, starting with Greta Thunberg, her flotilla being attacked by a drone. Did you hear about that?
Okay, so I knew that she was out on a flotilla, and then I just saw recently that one was attacked by a missile, right? But
like
I didn't know if it was hers.
The thing I just read before the dog rolled in the mole carcass was because I was like, I need to make sure that I have my accurate facts, but it was an hour ago. So at this point of the recording, it was like 3 hours ago. The information was they're not sure if she was on the flotilla, but everyone on the flotilla is safe.
Okay, that's good.
And for some reason, you know what I think? And this is just a complete guess, but they're like, we're not telling you where Greta is.
Right.
Because they want to target Greta.
Right.
Because she's like,
the face,
I
like
guess,
a popular,
she probably is the face because she's the one. She was like on the first flotilla.
Right.
She started it. She was one of the ones that was deported a few, month or so ago. But anyway, that's what I think.
And she's the most well-known name, I think. There are other well-known names. There's the Amazon. He's not the Amazon guy, not that one.
Jeff Bezos is on the flotilla.
No.
Hold on a second.
He's the one that was oh my God, the labor union.
Yeah.
Amazon.
Okay, I saw that. Yeah.
So he's one of them that's on there. And I'm sorry, I'm bad with names, so I don't know his name. But I know, everyone I think knows who Greta is. And it's a recognizable name. It's a recognizable face. She has a Nobel Peace Prize. And I know that's, something that bothers him.
Because he really wants his Nobel
really
Peace
wants
Prize.
one.
See, this is how our rant jumps around. So we're going to jump immediately from this very important topic, which I want to keep talking about. But you brought up Nobel Peace Prize. And so he really wants his Nobel Peace Prize. So as a result, he is like bashing Ron DeSantis.
Oh, I missed that.
Okay. This is, again, I'm sort of I'm not guessing, but I'm like connecting dots. But I think they connect in a really accurate way because Ron DeSantis is like, we're going to be the first state in the nation to not have vaccine mandates or they're not even mandates. Like, I don't know what he's talking about. Like, you can already claim religious exemption.
Right.
Doesn't make sense. So anyway, so Trump wants a Nobel Peace Prize for Operation Warp Speed. Have you heard of that?
No.
Okay. I actually just learned about it. I knew that he'd wanted a Nobel Peace Prize, but I didn't understand like what it was for, because I know he's also like, we're going to bring peace to the Middle East.
I still don't understand why or how he thinks he gets one, but okay.
I'll let you know. So I think he'll do it any way that he can, right?
Right.
He's not achieving peace in the Middle East. Like that is a whole nother conversation, but he might get one for Operation Warp Speed, which was the development of the COVID vaccine.
Which he called a hoax, right?
Yeah. Which he wasn't even like, he like inherited that. Like it was already, well, hold on. So if it was 2020, well, maybe, I don't know. I don't know how the times add up, but
it happened while he was in and then Biden took over.
Okay.
I think that's how it worked.
You can't, like one person can't claim like 100%, what's the word I'm trying to, like,
I was gonna say responsibility, but that's not
recognition. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I was actually just talking to my dad about this. He was like, "Did you see it? What's his name? Elon Musk. Elon Musk has this thing where it's gonna land this thing on the moon with airbags, so it's gonna like whatever." I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool, but like, was that Elon Musk's idea, or was it? Excuse me, or was it like the hundreds of people working for him idea?" And he like got kind of mad at me. I was like, the point is like no one person can be accredited,
right?
For that idea. And I think Operation Warp Speed was the result of a lot of different people coming together.
It's a group project.
Yeah.
And that sucks when one person gets the credit for a group project.
I hate that.
This is why people don't like group projects.
Exactly. Yes, that's true. Because it's so hard to like, work together. And also like if, the whole group should get recognition.
Right.
Everyone should get a trophy.
Right. Everyone who took part, especially.
Right.
I mean, like if you know damn well he did not have anything to do with anything
that
was important
to
this.
No. Absolutely.
And he was against it the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, how?
And so here's what he's saying now. He's saying, there's some vaccines that do a really good job, polio. So like he's like pro polio.
Suddenly he's pro vaccines.
Yeah, well, he's not pro all vaccines.
Okay.
He's like pro polio. He's like just the ones that he understands, like his tiny little brain understands. So anyway, Ron DeSantis is like trying to do this whole thing where we don't have any vaccines, and he's not making any sense, and unsurprisingly being a hypocrite, and saying the opposite of what nothing makes sense.
Right,
Nothing
right.
makes sense, yeah.
I thought you were going to bring up how he wants the Nobel Peace Prize, but at the same time change the Department of Defense
to the Department of War.
Yes.
No.
Which is like so like the irony there, the contradiction there. It's like
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because Nobel Peace Prize is like, while it might not be like, I mean,
peace specific, but
yeah, it's specific to like bettering our world in some way, and changing it to the Department of War and giving Pete Hegseth, of all people, like that responsibility,
and declaring basically war on one of your own states. Because have you seen? If you haven't, go on Instagram, and I used to hate Instagram, but go on there and check out the White House post.
Oh God.
And you will be appalled. Appalled. Okay. So I know that I talk about Gavin Newsom and how much I love how his, how he's matching Trump's energy.
Right. Instead of just being quiet.
Right. And so, yes, people are having an issue with that sometimes, that it's unprofessional or whatever, but he's matching someone else's energy. That's what he's doing. Mm-hmm. The White House, though, the White House that represents everyone, posting personal attacks against U.S. citizens, their own citizens, declaring war against their own states, is just wild. And it looks like someone said in a comment, it looks like Barron Trump runs this account.
Yeah.
It's so immature.
Who runs that account? The AI images alone.
Oh my God. It's embarrassing.
Have you seen the one about the Chicago apocalypse?
About where he's declaring basically war on the U.S.
Yeah.
And then he did one against Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's just it's very bizarre. Mm-hmm. Here's the Rosie O'Donnell one. Let me
oh no, I haven't seen that one. Oh, that's terrible.
It's embarrassing. And then here's the Trump one where he's
that's
Billy Badass or something. And sir, you wish.
That it says like Chicago apocalypse, or it's not even like a catchy thing, but it's like because he's gonna bring the National Guard into Chicago.
Yeah, it says, I love the smell of deportations in the morning.
Ugh.
Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War. Ugh. Weird. That's weird behavior.
It's alarming and it's concerning and it's not normal. And that was one thing that like I know we repeat. Sorry. Okay. We repeat ourselves a lot on this podcast, but like I am kind of surprised by like I guess I'm just like I just want to know what's going on, right? And I'm not saying like I'm particularly smart. I'm not like smarter than the average person. I consider myself to be an average person, right? But a lot of people, they get like caught up in their lives and like they don't know things like who Rosa Parks is, right? And we love reading books, and we are both similar in that we want to like learn more, and so we love. And as a teacher myself, I love sharing this with people, which is part of the reason why I really enjoyed doing this podcast. But none of this is normal. And I think as humans, it's human nature for us to be like, oh, this is just normal now. And that I think is the number one reason that I continue to do this podcast, is because we have to be one of the voices that reminds everyone that this is not normal. And you have to tell your friends and your family that this is not normal. Right.
This is normal behavior for him.
Right.
But it's not normal behavior for everyone. And I don't understand how we keep tolerating it. I do see a shift, and I've been saying that for the past couple of weeks, in his supporters, where you are seeing more people, saying like, hey, you're going too far. The thing is, it's a little too late. On that note,
it is, yeah.
Talking about supporters of his, have you seen what's going on with the farmers?
Uh-uh.
So think it's in Iowa. Don't quote me on the state.
That's the other thing. There's so much going on. It's hard to, like, we only touch, like, it's like an iceberg. We only touch like 10%. Yeah. But go on. Iowa farmers.
So there's something like, hold on, let me look it up because I don't want to completely say the wrong information.
Does it have to do with like ice and?
No, it has to do with them going bankrupt.
Oh.
Yeah. Bankrupt and losing their farms, and it's something, Arkansas. That's where it is.
Okay.
Yeah, Arkansas, where they, voted for him. The same people that voted for him. And so I like that people are saying, like, your racism is going to cost you your farm.
But
because
what happened?
That between the tariffs, and so now they're asking for a bailout, which is, again, ironic because we don't like giving poor people bailouts. There's no food for money, There's no money for food for kids. There's no money to give, people health care.
Right. But there's money to put gold accent in the Oval Office, right. Like however much gold that was, which is ridiculous.
And make a whole dining room.
Yeah. And to pave over the Rose Garden.
Yeah.
There's money to do all. And to bring in, the National Guard troops to Los Angeles and pretty soon Chicago.
DC.
Yeah, DC.
And, okay, so did you see the videos of the guardsmen
in DC planting flowers?
Yes, doing yard work.
Yeah, they were like beautifying. So then he pivoted because there wasn't enough crime there was no crime. So he pivoted like, oh, we're gonna do Operation Beautification DC. I'm like, what? So we're paying guardsmen to plant flowers.
Right. We pull them from their homes and their jobs because they're usually right. That's how it works, right?
I don't know.
Called into service, but usually they have like a normal life at home, maybe. Wherever they live.
Well, what's that called?
It's the National Guard. Hold on.
Remember how we said we're just like average intelligence? I hope we come off as having average.
When they get deployed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when they get deployed, they're not always on duty because the National Guard isn't always, right?
Well, I think there might be another name for it, and I'm like
reserves.
Reserves. That's it.
We got it. We got it.
But either way, taxpayer money is being spent in places where crime is actually way down. And remember, we talked about how in cities like crime-ridden cities like Baltimore, right. The mayor, put money into social services and unsurprisingly saw a huge drop in crime.
Right.
And we saw that not just in Baltimore, but in like, I think, was it New Orleans or it was like another city?
New Orleans is like number 1 in crime, I think, or number 2. And they sent, because they're very red.
Yeah, they want the National Guard to come.
They sent their National Guard to DC.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I think the governor is like, yeah, I send the National Guard, but I think the mayor is like, we don't.
Yes, it's like the whole state, and then there's like
New Orleans is.
I'm sorry, I'm
not
in Louisiana.
Yeah, Louisiana. Yeah, I see what you mean. But that's kind of what's going on in Chicago. So Chicago's mayor, did you see like all the protests and like the blockades? Yes. It was like, it was salt trucks.
Salt trucks, yeah,
because salt melts ice. Yeah. And as a science teacher, I was like, I love it. I love the science.
The little,
Yeah. So in case you didn't know,
digs,
because living in Florida, why would you know that salt melts ice? But salt does melt ice, and so that was like really cool for them to deploy all of the salt trucks that prevented ice from getting into their city. I don't know. I mean, obviously, it probably didn't work for forever, but
yeah.
But let's talk about the lawsuits, right? Because we're 9 months into this administration, and I said this at the beginning, like
only 9 months.
I know. I'm sorry. But lawsuits take some time. But organizations like the what's the one that starts with A?
Oh my God. ACLU.
ACLU. I was like thinking NAACP,
Me too.
which does a lot, but the ACLU,
ACLU,
American Civil Liberties Union. I know what it stands for. In many organizations like that, you have to wait for them to file a lawsuit, and then you have to wait for it to go through the courts, right? And so we're seeing that happening, and we saw that with LA, and they basically said that you can't send troops to a state that doesn't want you to send troops to it, right?
Right.
And they like cited this thing, this Latin thing that I can't remember. It was like something posse. Do you know what I'm saying? P-O-S-S-E. I'm sure there might be someone smarter than me listening that knows what I'm saying. But anyway, the bad news here is that in a emergency ruling, SCOTUS lifted the limits on roving patrols in Los Angeles.
See, what you're talking about now is the bad thing that's happening, where the Supreme Court will now basically allow racial profiling. And basically, if you look Hispanic, if you look like you speak Spanish, or they hear you speaking Spanish, that is enough for them to stop you and find out if you're here legally or not.
Yeah. So see, there's just so much going on. It's hard to keep track.
So much.
And Sotomayor responded with obviously the three Democratic Supreme Court justices dissented, right?
Right.
But freaking Brett Kavanaugh, like his response, because sometimes I don't know how it works, but sometimes they're just like, they give their vote and then they don't say anything about it. Brett Kavanaugh said something about it. And so he gave like a really long response, and he kept saying things like, well, I think it's okay for them to do brief stops. And so he kind of made it seem like what ICE is doing is like briefly stopping you because, oh, you look Hispanic. Let me just like ask you a few questions and then let you go. That's not what's happening.
Yeah.
And he has access to the evidence that tells him that this is not what's happening, which basically proves that he is, I don't know why the camera is doing that, but whatever. Because I've been talking for there we go. So basically just like outs him as like someone who doesn't know what he's talking about, which is that surprising?
No.
Should he ever have been a Supreme Court justice in the first place?
No.
Yeah. It's not. And so when I read that, I was like, yeah, that's not surprising. This guy's an idiot, right? So I'm going to read some evidence that Brett Kavanaugh had, at his whatever disposal to read, and he still voted to allow this racial profiling that you're talking about. He had full access to this information, and it describes how people were denied access to medical care and medications, and how one person who missed receiving chemotherapy, even though they had a doctor's note saying it would be detrimental to their health, right? And he just, in his response, he just keeps saying, brief investigative stops may briefly detain an individual. Like, that's not what's happening.
No. And they're taking people who have valid IDs, who have green cards on them, who have their passports on them, their driver's license, and they're like, yeah, this is fake. They're just full of shit. They're just making up whatever they want and doing whatever the hell they want. And they just said, yeah, that's cool. We're cool with that.
Not only that, guns, like threatening them with, like approaching them with guns drawn, not just like in their holster, but like drawn without being told what's going on or the nature of which is a violation of the Constitution. So ultimately they're like, yeah, this violates your, Constitution. But there was an emergency ruling, which was like a quick ruling, so that they can, I don't know, it's not over yet. It's going to come back.
Okay.
Right. But in the meantime, how many more lives are going to be ruined?
So now they can't show up with guns pulled? Is that what you're saying?
No. This was like, I think like they lifted the limit. So like if a few weeks ago, I don't know how long, but it was like, it was ruled that this was against the Constitution. Like
what
you can't,
was?
like racial profiling.
Okay. But now they're saying it is.
Yeah. So they just, keep going back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really hard to keep up with, but I think the thing that like really stands out to me is like, you have an accent, maybe you're passing as white, right? But you're speaking English with an accent, so I can briefly question you and then use my judgment as a racist white MAGA ICE agent and detain you, which we saw happen in Florida with a Hispanic man who was literally born in Florida, and his mom had to go home and get his birth certificate, saying he was born in Florida, bring it to the judge. The judge was like, why is this man in jail? ICE agents, even though they knew that the birth certificate existed, still asked the judge to keep the man in jail.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. It was he was 18.
And the judge was like, no.
Yeah. No, and for me, that's like a real fear. My mom has an accent. My husband is, and both of them are U.S. citizens. They both have accents. My husband speaks very very heavy accent, you know? So yeah, he's like now always like, yeah, I'm gonna carry my passport with me wherever I
Oh my
go. And I'm
gosh.
like, it's not gonna make a damn difference, you know?
Oh, it's terrible. And not to freak you out, but like it was reported that ICE was in our county today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so that's the other part of this Supreme Court ruling is not just like you look Hispanic or you're speaking with an accent. It's we're going to go to the labor heavy areas like the farms
Right.
and the construction sites. And I don't know how accurate this is, but there was ICE was reported to be at the Klein construction site, which Klein is like a huge
Okay, yeah.
construction name here. But I mean, I don't know what happened, but you don't think
Huh.
it's going to happen in your town,
Right, right.
especially when your town is tiny.
Well, but look at what happened at the Hyundai
Oh
plant
yeah.
in Georgia.
And those were all Koreans.
Yes. And here's the kicker, right? And this is, I point this out because if you don't know, I'm very like mad at Hispanics that voted for Trump. And Georgia, the Korean population, 80% voted for Trump.
Koreans in Georgia?
Yeah.
Wow.
So obviously it's not the people that were detained because they can't vote, but you are voting against your own people. And you don't even like clock that, and it bothers me to no end.
I wonder if it's like similar to the Hispanic population that you've mentioned before, like with the deep-seated religious part of it. Because like I don't know much about Korean culture,
Me
but
neither. I can't speculate to that. I just know that I saw that it stated 80% voted for Trump. And then now they're seeing their own people getting I think it's more of they thought it was going after Hispanic people and that they weren't going to be part of the equation. And now they're,
oh,
again, they're in the FO stage. They're in the FO stage.
and they were deported.
Well, not the people that voted because they can
No, the
legally
people
vote.
in the Hyundai dealership, they were deported, right?
They've been detained. I'm not really sure but pretty much that plant has been shut down. And now
I think from what I read, they were on a plane back to South Korea.
already,
Yeah,
like I thought South Korea was upset with what happened because this
Probably,
was like
but
a partnership that they had with South Korea
yeah,
to bring this plant here. And so now they've kind of just ruined all of that. Georgia now lost a lot of jobs because that plant, I don't know what's going to happen there, but it was a disaster. And it's all rooted in racism because these people are just there working. They're not criminals.
Yeah, absolutely. And to go back to, the criminal aspect of it, like I think you've mentioned this before, the reason that a lot of Hispanics or whatever groups of different, even the Koreans, like voted for Trump was because he said he was going to deport the criminals.
Right.
Which he hasn't done.
No. And to the point, like, if you listen to, what is her name? Carolyn Lyon Levitt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, if you listen to her at her press conferences, she will talk about one person as an example. Like, oh, look who we caught.
Yeah.
And post a picture, and this is what they did and blah, blah, blah. You're bragging about thousands of people that you're deporting. And you have one example, 2 examples of people as criminals. You don't have hard numbers like,
and
90% of these people are criminals.
And one of those people, though, is Abrego Garcia, who's not even a criminal.
Right.
It's just ridiculous.
But they still pretend, they still want to portray him as a criminal.
Right. Yeah, they're working hard to do that. The stinky dog wants to come in. You get out of here. Go on now. Yeah. Go. Yeah.
I'm not touching you today.
Yeah. You can go up there. I don't care. Let me know if it's. Oh,
she smells good.
She does?
She smells good.
Yeah. You just stay over there. Jesus Christ.
She's like proud of herself.
No. Jennifer doesn't mean to give you attention. She's not going to look at you. No. Don't look at her.
Not looking. Oh. I'm not even looking at you.
Go away. Yeah. Anyway. Okay.
Based on statistics, and I don't have specific numbers for you.
They're not hard to find.
But yeah, look them up. Who is causing most of these crimes, especially like what is the runner that they love to, and I'm not making fun of.
Laken Riley.
Right? They passed a whole law based on
Laken
her.
Riley Act, yeah.
Okay, because yes, she was assaulted and killed by a immigrant. But how many other women have been killed by white men.
Exactly.
Or by, U.S. citizens. Far more.
You're right. They just take one example and they like blow it up. They're like, oh yeah, this immigrant killed this beautiful blonde white girl. I don't know if she was blonde. This beautiful white girl. Okay. And yeah. And they're doing the same thing with the trans school shooter.
Right. And suddenly we forget about all the 99% of the other shooters that are just white and male. You know? That's not a factor. No.
Yeah.
It's suddenly a trans problem.
Right.
It's suddenly a mental health issue.
Right. Yeah. So now they're saying like, oh, if you're trans, you're either not allowed to get a gun or you're like susceptible to like tests. I'm like, great, do that for everybody.
Exactly. And surprisingly, and I'm not pro NRA at all, but the NRA actually said, no, we're not cool with that.
Oh, wow.
Because it's a slippery slope for them, right?
Yeah. Like, yeah. I mean, that doesn't make them good.
No.
Yeah.
That's like, it's shocking, but
yeah. Oh, and that reminds me too, like all the countries that are standing up, because you stand up to Trump, you're brave. You stand up to Israel, you're brave.
Right.
And we're seeing that happen with a lot of European countries. They're like, I'll have to look at it on my phone.
I think it was Ireland who said if anything happened to one of the flotillas, they were going to shut down. But I think something that the Irish government can do would shut down like trade in Europe completely, like lock it down.
Oh, like because Ireland has that much influence or something?
I'm not sure if they have like a route that they go through or something, but they said if anything happened to the flotilla, hold on, let's look it up because, okay, so what it is Irish officials have voiced support for recent aid flotillas, emphasizing the need for humanitarian aid to reach Gaza. But it's activists who have been claiming that they will shut things down if something happens to the flotilla.
Okay.
But the government is very vocal that they support aid getting to Gaza.
So Ireland is one of those countries that has been vocal, but also like a lot of Arab countries have been vocal too recently about, have you heard of the Abraham Accords?
No.
So basically Netanyahu, the next thing that he wants to do is annex Palestine and just like keep taking more and more. Right. And so the Arab states are like, no, you can't do this. Like, so they're at least standing up, and trying to prevent him from doing that.
Right.
And then there's like other officials throughout Europe that have said, Netanyahu needs to answer for the crimes that he's committed. He needs to be in jail. There have been several countries that have just said, we're no longer trading with Israel. Like it's sort of like snowballing a little bit more that like now I guess they've reached their line. Like, remember we were talking about like, where's your line?
Right. Yeah. It's baffling. And we keep seeing them do crimes against, what are they called? War crimes. And they keep getting away with it. Like, when do people step in? And the U.S. is no better. They just bombed or took out a boat that was coming from Venezuela.
Oh my God, I saw that.
They're just claiming that it's
even if every person on that boat was a drug dealer, they do not deserve to be killed because due process is a constitutional right, whether you're an American citizen or not.
It's international waters. Right. It didn't happen in our water.
Right. But even here, if we're talking about due process in the States, like that was one thing that some people were like, well, due process only if you come here legally. No, that's not true. It's due process. If you're a human being,
right,
it's due process.
Right.
Yeah.
The same people that claim to love the Constitution,
I know,
do not read it because how do you think that's okay? Where, if you love this document so much, how do you not know it front to back?
Right.
Same thing with Christians. Right?
In the Bible.
That's your religion and your Bible is everything to you. But yet you do everything that is so anti-Jesus that it's baffling.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
None.
Well, I guess we've rambled on enough. And there's so much more that we could talk about, but like we said, it's impossible.
No, it's too much. Too much shit is happening and we can't keep up. But
I mean, if there's something that our listeners whoever you are out there, want us to talk about, like send us a DM or comment on one of our posts like, hey, next time I would like to hear you discuss blah, 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 because there's just so many things. Like I saved things to our Instagram account all the time, and I
Right.
never get around to it. I think we did a good job covering a lot of it.
A lot of what's
Yeah.
been happening, but yeah, I'm sure we missed quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to this book here, we're gonna kind of quickly go through just a few things. Basically, it starts with the story of, I like how she did this because she talks about a boy who is not responsible for this, right? But he ultimately was blamed. He was the scapegoat. Am I using that word the right way, you think?
Scapegoat. Yeah.
Because like they needed someone to blame. The white people that were angry, right? So the white people were really angry. Why were the white people angry? Well, slavery was abolished, and black people had started getting, you know, they went to World War One, right? They were able to fight for our country. They came back, and you know, they started making lives for themselves, and white people didn't, they would get jealous at like a black person's success, right?
Right.
And so for after slavery was abolished, there were the Jim Crow laws. There were before the Jim Crow laws was the Black Codes,
Right.
in which, you know, black people were treated unfairly and so on. So the author does a really good job at sort of like building up to why this massacre occurred in 1921. Because it wasn't just like a fluke event. Like it was like kind of building up,
Right.
you know? And so we talk about the lynchings, you know, where a black man accidentally brushes shoulders with a white woman. And so he is torn out of his bed in the middle of the night and
Right.
strung up in a tree.
Yeah,
You know?
it's basically, and we see that still today,
hmm
where they're just looking for a reason. We see that with police officers.
hmm
They're just looking for a reason to be able to attack you.
hmm
So you'll see, to me, it just reminds me of what's happening today. You'll see a cop say, "Stop resisting," and the person's not resisting.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about? But now they've put it out there. So the moment you just kind of even move, you're pulling my arm back and twisting it. Your body's reaction is going to be to try to adjust your arm back. It's not that you're fighting, but that is all they need to be able to throw you down on the ground now and beat the crap out of you.
Yeah, I mean, so this book actually talks about like the birth of police. Like I think in the North they were called night watchmen, and it was actually a punishment. So like you were a night watchman if you got caught gambling or drinking too much in public, and they're like, "Oh, as your punishment, we're going to make you be a night watchman."
You sound like you're perfect for Law and Order.
Right. And so that kind of person became a police officer and would go and bust other people for whatever. So you can imagine what kind of people they went after.
Right.
And then in the South, it was something to do with slaves. It was like it was like the slave catchers. Like they would go and catch like runaway slaves or something,
Right.
and they ended up becoming the police officers.
So basically, the KKK became police.
And throughout history, you know, the police and the KKK had this relationship where they just sort of like looked the other way.
Yes.
And we still see a lot of that today in 2025, where, you know, justices are just ignored. So the Tulsa Race Massacre occurred on Memorial Day of 1921. It was a day that began just like any other day in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with many shops and stores closed for businesses as the townspeople prepared for the big parade that would proceed down Main Street that morning. But one business that remained open on the busy street was a shoe shine parlor that employed a 19-year-old black man named Dick Rowland. And so the author goes in to give you a little bit of background about Dick, which I'm not going to do, but, you know, like most black people at this time, he kind of grew up in an unfortunate environment and struggled to get where he is today, which is having a job,
right,
and being able to provide for himself. And that was thanks to a woman that took him under her wing, right? And while he wasn't working in Greenwood, the Greenwood district, which is what this whole book is about, he was a part of the Greenwood district.
Okay.
And so the Greenwood district is basically where the black people had created their businesses. So it was created by, is also known as Black Wall Street. So it was created by two men who had a little bit of money. And back then, it was easy to buy land, so they had enough money to buy like a big piece of land. And they only gave out loans to other Black people. And so they would say, come to Greenwood, you know how to do hair, here's some money, open up a hair salon, right? You're a preacher, here's some money, build a church, and so they wanted to keep the Black dollar in the Greenwood, right?
Okay.
And as a result, it became a bustling, very successful district that had like 12 churches, it had a couple supermarkets, it had a hospital with Black medical staff. It had several schools and houses. It was just like, imagine a small town in 1921.
Right.
So Dick Greenwood had to pee. Okay. This is all because he had to pee. I'm trying to see. I don't want to read too much. Okay. So he had to pee, where he had to go use the restroom as there were no colored bathrooms in the shoe shine parlor. Back then, elevators required manual operation to run up and down the floors of buildings. And the elevator operator that day was a young white woman named Sarah Page. It's always a young white woman.
Always, yeah.
Says the not young white woman. While little is known about Rowland's life, even less seems to be known about Page, which is so interesting. This author, she researched the hell out of this book, and we don't know anything about Sarah Page.
Right.
She existed, though. And so, so she had supposedly already been married and divorced by the time she was 17 in 1921, and had moved to Tulsa from Kansas City, Missouri to start over, renting a room in a boarding house on North Boston Avenue. It is rumored that Rowland and Page had known each other prior to Memorial Day, which would make sense as Rowland had to use that building and the elevator to pee anytime because he wasn't allowed to pee anywhere else, right?
You imagine he used it daily.
Yeah, you pee multiple times a day.
Right.
So he would likely run into Page sometimes. But it was also said by some, including Rowland's aunt, that they had perhaps been romantically involved. Which
would have been very taboo back then.
But also not like, Rowland was probably a handsome guy.
Right.
And white people, there were interracial relationships. It was taboo, but not surprising, really. But it's funny, he uses the word taboo. And one of the biggest taboos in early 20th century America was a relationship between a Black man and a white woman. Not necessarily a Black woman and a white man, though.
Especially if it's a white woman.
Yeah, the white woman is what really creates problems.
Because again, that just shows white men like, oh, how did this Black man take a woman from me?
Absolutely. And that's in the book, the author Brandy does a really good job at backing that up with evidence. So she's like, this is how white people felt, and here's evidence to go along with it. It's like for example, when a lot of Black people moved to the North from the South, right? I mean, that makes sense. Like, get out of the South. Like, go find a job, even though the North isn't perfect, right?
But it's better than being down South.
Yeah, so Black people would go up and they would get jobs. And so the white people up North, they went on strike because their working conditions were terrible. So I don't blame them for going on strike because there were no unions, or unions were not good or whatever. And so the Black people were like, well, I'll apply for this job. And so they took the jobs while the white people were on strike.
Right.
And so that fueled the fire, in the northern states too. All right, so Rowland used the elevator that day, which Page was operating. The police later determined that Rowland tripped while entering the elevator, reached out, caught Page's arm for balance, causing her to scream out in surprise. A sales clerk from a clothing store on the first floor heard the scream, saw Rowland hurrying from the building, because that's a knee-jerk reaction, like, I'm going to get the fuck out of here, and called the police, assuming Page had been a victim of attempted rape.
Right. And you have to think of it in that time. Because if you think about it now, like, why would he run? Well, in those days, he's a Black man alone with a white woman, and she's yelling and screaming. His immediate thought is, I'm going to get blamed for whatever is happening, whatever they think is going to happen or happened.
Yep.
I got to go.
Yep. And so just to give you a little bit more information about the book, like, This whole story of the Tulsa Race Massacre can be summed up in like 3 paragraphs, but the book talks about like the history of Oklahoma. It goes into great detail about the indigenous history of
Yes.
Oklahoma, which is super important. And to me, as a teacher, like a really important book that could be very easily incorporated into middle school and high school curriculum.
Yes.
It's history. This is history, and this is what like how kids get engaged.
Right. And I listened to the audiobook of this and I thought it was going to, because I do more like lovey-dovey stuff and fantasy. And
Yeah,
I was
sometimes
like,
you want
I'm
to
going to
escape.
struggle.
Yeah.
No, the audiobook for this is so good. The author, the narrator is excellent. You're not falling asleep listening to it. So I could see this being something that a kid can read in school and really engage with it.
Yeah, especially but the reason that you won't see this in Florida, or you'll see a lot of backlash in states like Florida, is because, it talks about roundup camps. The Cherokee people were removed from their lands in Georgia, imprisoned in roundup camps, and forced to walk over 1,000 miles to their new home in Oklahoma. More than 4,000 Cherokee people died along the way, with about half the deaths occurring in the camps due to unsanitary conditions, which can be compared to alligator Auschwitz or
Right.
Alcatraz or whatever, but also to what's going on in Palestine right now
Yeah.
with Palestinians dying due to hunger or hunger-related causes, right?
Right.
Which a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's not genocide because he's not rounding them up and gassing them, Netanyahu,
Right.
right? But he is deliberately preventing aid, food, medicine from getting to them.
Right.
And that is still like an indirect it's a direct way of murder.
Yeah, you're starving them to death. You're also bombing their hospitals and their schools and their churches. So you're not giving them anywhere where they can find safety.
Right. Or directly shooting at them, like in the case of so many victims, but the one that has been made sort of like an example
Right.
is Rajab.
The young girl that there was like hundreds of bullets. Her car was riddled with it.
And there's a documentary out that I don't know if I'll be able to bring myself to watch because Miss Rachel watched it and then she gave her reaction on social media and she was just crying the whole time.
Yeah,
I was like, Miss Rachel, if you can't I can't, you know. But I am going to try and watch it once it becomes available. I don't know how available it is, but that's going to be really hard to watch.
I've seen videos of like you'll see the baby when it was born and you'll see the conditions that child is in now, just weeks or months later. And it is like it's
indescribable.
Yeah, if you are not moved by that, I don't understand what is wrong with you. And I don't understand how you can say you're pro-life, that you support children, that you're trying to save children, and you can see that and be like, yeah, as Randy Fine said, let them starve.
Exactly. Right. If you go and vote for someone like that after you have that information and, then you're the problem. You're part of the problem. You're complicit in this genocide.
Right.
Right. But back to what I was saying about this being in schools, it's like, and the same with Trump wanting the Smithsonian to remove anything that paints white people in a bad light. Like these roundup camps are direct, like a student would read this and be like, oh yeah, that kind of sounds like what's happening right now.
Right.
And DeSantis knows that, which is why Florida is one of the states with the most bans. But anyway, let's, fast forward basically to Rowland is in jail, right? He's on the third level of this jail. And like slowly but surely a white mob starts to form. Okay. And they're like breaking down the door. But there's a sheriff who actually is like trying to do his job. He's like, I'm not going to let you get to this guy.
Right.
He needs, he's going to be tried the way he's supposed to be tried, I guess. But ultimately, the white crowd just gets bigger and bigger because the black people of Greenwood are like, no, we have to go and do something.
Right.
And they're like, this is our town. This is our person. Like he lived in our community. He lives in our community. And so they go, a small group of them with guns because they're allowed to have guns. You know, they had just come back from war and they have guns from war. Right? Which a lot of white people don't like either.
No.
And so they don't like that black people are starting to act like them, right? And have all the same rights and
Right.
privileges as them, and so when they see this small group of black men with guns trying to protect Dick Rowland, it just, you can only
Infuriates
imagine,
them more.
it gets bigger and bigger. And not only, another thing that the author, does a really good job at is she includes newspaper clippings from several newspapers in the area of headlines and articles, right, that only add fuel to the fire.
Right.
The white newspaper especially was like something about I don't know if I'll be able to find it on command here, but something about like Negro will hang, or like encouraging the white population to come and like fight for I don't know, the justice of this white woman whose arm was touched.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about?
For her honor.
Yeah, fight in her honor. I don't know, but the headline was just like egregious. Oh, I just found it. Nab Negro for attacking girl in elevator. And then that was the morning newspaper, right? Because back then newspaper was like social media.
Right.
So they like published and released newspapers really quickly. And the next one was to lynch Negro tonight. So what do you think of when, if you're like a white racist man at that time and you're reading the paper, to lynch Negro tonight? Oh, I know what I'm doing tonight.
Right. I'm going to go watch this. I'm going to go take part in this.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's what happened. And so eventually I think they gave up on Dick Rowland. And they're like, because the sheriff was like,
okay.
So this story could have gone one of two ways, or it could have gone in a different way. The sheriff could have been like, fine, I'm going to turn my cheek, I'm going to look the other way. And you're going to go up there and you're going to grab Dick Rowland, you're going to hang him, you're going to lynch him, right?
Right.
Which has happened. Again, this book does a great job explaining, how many times that's happened.
Right.
Since, the beginning. But that didn't happen because the sheriff was like, no, you're not going to do that.
Right.
So what did they do? They went to Greenwood. And that's essentially what happened.
Okay. So they were like, we're going to go to his neighborhood and destroy everything because we're hateful people.
So I have a couple of things that I highlighted that I can read. And, a couple of the quote good guys they were really trying, like the sheriff, and a couple other ones like
like a grocery store owner, right?
Yeah, there were lots, she also does a really good job at like giving white accounts of white people helping, but they did call the National Guard, which took their sweet time in showing up. Like they sent a telegram via Western Union. Race riot developed, several killed, unable to handle situation. Request National Guard forces to be sent by special train. Situation serious. Like that was like the whole thing.
It's dire out here. Send help.
Yeah, and it just took too long for them to get there. But yeah, even after they got there, it still wasn't that helpful. Some black Tulsans had fled the town hours before, terrified of the violence that had already overtaken the city. Irene Schofield told the Black Dispatch newspaper, early in the evening, when there was first talk of trouble, I and about 40 others started out of the town and walked to a little town about 15 miles away. Unfortunately, Billy Hudson, who had gathered his grandchildren and was setting out in their horse-drawn wagon for Newata, a town about 40 miles northeast of Tulsa, never made it. He, like many others, was killed by white people before the journey could begin.
Wow. Imagine just grabbing a random person and killing them
because
they're black.
And he's not even the one who grabbed Sarah Page's arm. He was a grandpa trying to protect his grandchildren.
And I'm assuming his grandchildren passed away too. So, they didn't care.
Let's see. There were no paved roads in North Tulsa then. That is why the women and children were running down the railroad tracks so they could keep out of the mud. The women were still in their nightgowns and they were holding their children's hands and just dragging them along, and the children were crying. And what I think is really special about this book is she actually like interviews people, right? Or finds primary sources and includes them in the book. And also, like this picture here, so the research is just incredible. And this picture is a black man who has his hands up, and it says, a man is detained by the white mob on June 1st, 1921. This was after, right? Standing on the south side of the Frisco Railroad tracks near North Cincinnati Avenue. And once the National Guard had gotten there, they started rounding up all the survivors, and then they had to just like live in a camp until a white person could come and claim them. And if you didn't have a white person to come and claim you, you were just there until they could figure out what to do with you.
That's wild.
Because they didn't have anywhere to go because their houses were burned down. So if you didn't have a white person to come and like vouch for you, you were screwed. Right. So a lot of white people went and vouched for people they didn't even know. Yeah. But I mean, I just couldn't believe that. But the book is called Blackbirds in the Sky.
So is that referencing, because I know that the town was bombed.
Yeah, there's a quote at the beginning of each chapter, and I think it was like one of the... Oh, I found it. That's so lucky. All right, it says, I saw what I thought were little blackbirds dropping out of the sky over the Greenwood district. But those were no little blackbirds. What was falling from the sky over the Negro district, as it was called in those days, were bullets and devices to set fires and debris of all kinds. And that was a direct quote from Genevieve Elizabeth Tillman Jackson, a Tulsa race massacre survivor.
So that's where that came from.
Yeah.
Because that's what really like destroyed the city.
Yeah.
Not so much, I mean, obviously the mob didn't help, but it was the bombing that really destroyed everything.
And then, so yeah, I know I kind of glossed over that, but like we say with every book, like go read it for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I took extensive notes on this and because, you know, you always think like, oh, I'm going to talk about this on the podcast.
Right.
I mean, I did what I could because we've already been talking long enough in this episode. But, you know, one other thing that she does that I think is really, really cool is the afterword. Did you get to that part in your audiobook?
I didn't.
Okay. She just talks about today. She talks about, then I was so sad because this was the first time Trump was elected. And I was reading it, I was like, oh God, it's only going to get worse.
Right.
You know? But, you know, I'll read the last part of it because she truly is, as you said, you know, you were engaged in this book, even though it's not like a lovey story or anything, but it is like, you want to know what happens next. Right. So she says, what would this country look like if more Black people grew up being taught their history? Which is what Trump wants to erase. Right. As much as they are taught the stories of white Americans. How would people interact with one another if white Americans learned early on that they are not the center of every story, or that their stories are not the only ones that matter? I am haunted by these questions the further I dig into this country's past, but I am not deterred. And while I hope this book contains some answers about the history of the complex relationship between the United States and Black Americans, I hope it also raises some questions for its readers. A framed art print hangs in my home that reads, "Ask more questions." I've always valued this advice. I see it as a nod to my love for journalism, which I spent 4 years studying in college. But these words are first and foremost a fervent reminder to continue seeking out the truth every day and to never stop sharing it, which is why we do this podcast.
Right.
So,
yeah, and I will say too that I did not hear about Black Wall Street until a couple of years ago. On a lot of Black history that I've learned has been through social media.
Social media, man. I used to be like, you know, the world would be a better place if we just didn't have smartphones. That is not true.
Right.
That is not true. We need to know what's happening.
Yeah.
And I learned about the Chiquita Banana Guatemalan coup through social media as well.
Right, which is amazing because I'm Guatemalan and I don't know about that.
I bought a book on Thrift Books about 2 months ago and it still hasn't come yet. I don't know why. But it's on the Guatemalan coup. There's not very many books on this.
Right.
But it fucking happened and it had to do with Chiquita bananas.
Okay.
And, you know, Guatemalan, one of the biggest exports is bananas.
Right.
Well, America basically, you know, was like, no, we want in on this. We're going to form a coup in your country, in Guatemala, and like overthrow the government just so that we can get the banana money.
Which is what we see happening a lot. Like if you think Venezuela is sending a bunch of drugs into the US, what we're after is oil. You know, they have one of the biggest oil reserves.
What Americans are after. Yeah. Okay.
None. But you know, it's always, you know, they'll find a reason to go into these countries and to overthrow them.
What did your husband think about that?
You know, we haven't talked about it
Really?
a whole lot.
Yeah.
He just kind of makes
just to clarify, he's Venezuelan,
right?
And you're Guatemalan.
Yes. You know, he's always said it's about the oil.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's that from day one. He was like, yeah, it's about the oil. But my husband was not an anti-Trumper from the beginning.
But that's because correct me if I'm wrong, but he was in the group where it's like, oh yeah, get rid of the illegal criminals.
Right.
That's not, there aren't that many.
No.
There's not enough.
No. And I kept telling him, they think you're the criminal. And he was like, no. And now he's like, yeah, now he's got to tell everybody that I'm right. That I was right.
I love it.
I mean, I hate what's happening, but that's a silver lining for me.
Yeah.
I was right. I mean, I didn't want to be right, but I knew I was right. Like, how did you not know? That's my question. Like, to my husband all the time, I'm like, how did you not see it? How did you not know? But here we are.
Well, and you can ask that question for so many Americans. And it's just, and I used to want answers, and now I'm just like, what's the point of having the answer? What happened. Hopefully, like, you know, we can work at a community level.
Right.
And, you know, when I say community, I don't just mean like our town. I mean like our podcast community or your TikTok community or like whatever, like your little circles of the people that you trust and stuff. And if we can just like expand that reach a little bit more and more, you know, using social media and sharing pictures and videos and stories of like, hey, this is the reality, then hopefully, you know, we can make baby steps towards progress. But right now in the thick of it, it's hard to see if we are making any.
Right. And a lot of people do tune things out. Like I'll talk about little things on like my personal page and stuff. And I love to wear t-shirts that say things. And so I got a shirt that just said, it's still the Gulf of Mexico, pendejo. And I posted it, like me wearing it, and someone asked like, what is that about? And I was like, how did you not know what it's about? But she's like, yeah, I don't pay attention to a lot of what's happening because it's bad. It's all bad. And so I'm just tuning it out. And then I explained it to her, and she was like, and if you don't know, you know, Trump has changed the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, only in the United States.
Yeah, the world is not.
The world is not. Yeah,
the world is not recognizing that.
But
thankfully,
you know, so she had no idea, and she was like, what an idiot. And I'm like, yeah,
that's kind of surprising to me, but also I guess it's like what's it called, like you know, like a form of self-preservation. But I would guarantee she has to know that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift got engaged,
probably,
right?
Yeah, probably.
And that's just the choice that she's made. And some days I'm like, I tell myself that's what I'm gonna do.
Right.
I'm gonna just cut this part out and just keep this part in and just live my life in blissful ignorance. But I never do. But I understand.
Yeah, and you know what? And people work, now that I'm working and I'm trying to do like a lot of things, sometimes I just doom scroll, you know, and I like sometimes just like the videos of just cats playing around and like doing silly things, or you know, just fun videos, because I need to, because just your normal life is stressful, and add all the crap that's happening with our government,
right?
It's like extra stressful.
Yeah.
But you know, I take a day sometimes to detox, but I still try to be as informed as possible. Yeah.
And you're, I think, in like the minority on that, unfortunately. But I mean, hopefully, but with social media, sometimes it's kind of hard to ignore, which is why I'm kind of like a pro for social media. But there's also fake news, and I like the video I saw that I didn't think it was real, but like it was whatever.
Right.
It's kind of, proof that you can definitely be fed wrong information. And that, honestly, that's like part of the reason why we're here in the first place.
Right. And you know what scares me? It's off topic, but with the Epstein files, right?
Oh, we didn't even talk about Epstein.
We didn't talk about them. But now it's a Democratic hoax. Democratic Epstein hoax.
Well, no, now he was an FBI informant.
Right. But how could he be an FBI informant to something that's a hoax?
Oh, I don't know. Did you see that they released like the birthday book today?
I did see like the picture, and can we talk
There's
about the
lots
picture?
of pictures.
Okay, but the drawing of the woman,
yeah,
that is not a woman. Look at the picture. That is not an adult woman.
No.
That to me was very childlike.
Yeah. Well, so that picture's been around for a while now, but now recently the whole book has been published, and so now there's like, in the birthday book, they're like cut up photographs with the faces are censored, but you can tell just from looking like they're girls.
Bodies,
they're girls. Yeah. And, you know, they are respecting the privacy of the victims, but you can see, and it does name like a few, it names like men.
Right.
Who I guess the idea is they wrote letters or poems to put in this birthday book, and then they're from like certain men who probably knew what was going on and partook in it, and that's why we saw Donald Trump's first, and then there's all these other men, but yeah, there's lots of pictures that.
And then we had the victims who went ahead and had a press conference, and they spoke up,
and then the administration decided to fly fighter jets over them while they were talking, which just ended up like amplifying the story even more.
Right.
So
yeah, and so a lot of what we have happening, I think, is part distraction from the Epstein files.
Oh yeah.
But and then how is it a hoax? And the whole time he ran on releasing the files.
Yeah.
Like that's what he ran on. That there's just so much. Oh my god, it's. I think we need a whole.
This
Epstein,
is why.
episode.
But this is why people are like, fuck that. I'm just gonna focus on Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's engagement because like this is so overwhelming. You know?
Yeah.
It is.
Stay woke, people. You gotta pay attention.
Yeah.
You have to. Like as much. Take a day off, but then come back.
You know, last thing we'll say before we end this episode is the protests and, you know, the response from the people, right? Like the city. We didn't even talk about Boston and the badassness that's going on in Boston right now. Like cities are like responding, you know, and it gives me hope. We'll end it with a good news story. Where did my phone go? There it is. I found it.
I was like, I don't see it.
I mean, there's a lot because, you know, it's really easy to keep track of the good news stories once you follow the account. Good news. Here, I'll give you the handle in just a second. Good. 3 goods. And then CO. Co.
Okay.
So it's good, co. And let's see, just the first one that I pulled up is school meals are now free for every student in New York, which we've seen happen in a few states.
Right.
And actually in our county. But it's not always that way.
Right.
It's like
they vote every year to see if it's going to be a free thing.
Yeah. So thanks to New York's new universal free meals program, every student in the state will receive a free breakfast and lunch at school. No application or income checks required, which is a huge deal.
Right.
Huge deal. That's how it should be in every state, every public school. You know, there shouldn't, if you're going to public school, kids should just not be hungry. So. Oh, it was Spain. I found it. Spain officially suspended all arms exports to Israel.
Nice.
Boycotting Israel is becoming a new trend in Europe. That was good news too. Good.
Yeah, that is really good news. I mean, I think feeding children is always a good thing, but seeing changes like that, like that's going to make an impact.
And another one, Turkish garbage collectors opened a library full of books people threw away. And look at this picture.
Oh my god.
It's a ton
of books.
A ton of books, and it looks like they did it in a tunnel. Oh my gosh. They're just
oh, that's cute.
Let's see if we can. There we go. Sorry. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. Since, you know, we like books and stuff. Which brings us to our next statement. Don't ban books.
Ban bigots. This episode has been engineered and mixed by your hosts, Jennifer and Courtney.
You can listen to the MILF for Books podcast on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, or literally any podcast app you want.
Check out our MILF for Books YouTube page. That's MILF, 4, Books. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Follow the show on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and Blue Sky at MILF for Books. Again, that's MILF, 4, Books. But follow us on TikTok at Moms into Literary Freedom.